Thank you. Okay, Tracy, it's all yours.
Excellent. So good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Tracy Raymer. I'm president of the Illinois Limousine and Bus Association. So as I just want to kind of go over a few things that Paula was saying. So even though all of you will be on mute, just keep in mind this is more of an informal meeting. We highly encourage interaction. So if you do have a question or a comment to make, even while our presenter is presenting, there is an option where you can raise your hand and that will toggle your video or your photo to go to the top of the screen, and then we know that you have a question. So then we can break in and ask that question, or use the chat box. Put your question in the chat box. As soon as we have a pause, we'll bring up your question and make sure that we find an answer for it. And then the other thing, since we do have a large, mid-sized large group on here, is if you wouldn't mind in the chat box is put your name, the name of your company, and also the city that you are operating from. Use this not just for educational purposes, but use this get together, this Zoom meeting for a networking event as well, and get to know the others that are joining you this morning. So I know there's quite a few on here that are not from Chicago or from the state of Illinois. So it's just a great opportunity to hear about and get to know other operators in other states. So when you have your affiliate work, you've got some choices out there. And you start forging those relationships. And when you see each other at the show, you've already got a relationship that has started. So again, I just want to thank all of you for joining us today. We hope that today's meeting provides you with useful information and tips that are helpful to your business and that you can implement. The great thing about today's topic is holiday light tours. Is right now we are in mid-September, so it's an excellent time. I know for us here at Windy City that we're starting to plan our different tours. I believe we have 5 to 6 different light tours that we put together. And we work with different municipalities and talking to the different cities and finding the locations, you know, the blocks where they have a lot of lights, and we put those tours together. So now is a great time to consider offering this service to the customers. And we want to take this opportunity to thank our member, Tim Wiegman, for leading our discussion today. And like I said, during the presentation, go ahead and post your questions or just raise your hand and we'll make sure that we get to you. After Tim will speak for about 20-25 minutes, and then afterwards we will facilitate a brief roundtable chat for anything that's happening, you know, within the Chicagoland area, happening with the association, any questions that any of you may have. We're also always looking for future topics. So like today's topic, holiday light tours, if there's anything coming up that you would like to hear a speaker or to hear more about, or just to hear what other operators are doing, let us know. And if you don't want to let us know in the public forum, you can email, text, or private message Paula, myself, any of the board members. And that gives us an opportunity to research your topic and to be able to find resources so that we can bring that to you. So at this time, I'm going to introduce the board of directors really quick before we introduce our speaker. So now we have Kaya Armagan of Flash Limousine and Buses, who also serves as our treasurer. We have Bill Battisti, Nationwide Bus Sales. We have Beth Cox of Cox Livery Service. We have Paula DiBiase of Chicago Coachworks, who is also our secretary and our executive director. We have James Jordan of Lux Tux Transportation. Lynn Kafkes of Galaxy Limousine. Michael McDaniels of Shriver Transportation Insurance. Art Rento of Pontarelli Companies, who is also our vice president. And last but not least, we have Brian Sheely of Epic Limousine. So those are our 2023 board of directors. So at this time, I'd like to introduce our ILLBA member, Tim Wiegman, who's been offering holiday light tours in his Kansas City market for over 15 years. He has graciously agreed to share with all of you today some insights and tips to planning and executing this service offering to your customers. And again, please remember to use the chat box and raise your hand if you have any questions. And at this time, we will turn it over to Mr. Wiegman.
Good morning. As you can see, I'm
morning.
being quite festive here. This is part of my costume that I will frequently dawn as part of my holiday light tours. I think this is awesome who we have here. We got Florida, Georgia, California, New Hampshire. I mean, we got like Iowa, Missouri. This is a great turnout. I really appreciate that. So I'm going to share a presentation here. I have put together. Let me figure out how to. All right. Let me see here. I am failing at this.
No, you just have to change
I'll
the,
move you over there.
yeah.
Does that work?
Yes, perfect.
All right. I don't know why it took me to that. Let me go here. All right.
There you are. Perfect.
All right. So I'm going to talk about how to build, price, and market some holiday light tours. As I mentioned in the comments or in the chat, I own Boulevard Limousine. I service the Kansas City metropolitan area, and then go out to Topeka and Lawrence as well. I have been doing this since I opened in 2008. So 2016 should be my 16th year of offering holiday light tours. First things first, we got to cover something. It's only September.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, I actually already have like 4 or 5 holiday light tours on the books scheduled already, with probably about 24 more inquiries. This is something that I have people that book them. Last year, the first booking actually took place in June. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of my holiday light tours. Kansas City is known for our Christmas lights, especially the plaza lights. If you ever see a postcard of Christmas from Kansas City, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a picture of the plaza with the plaza lights. If you see that Spanish architecture with all the lights on the edges of the buildings, those are the plaza lights. Each Thanksgiving, there are tens of thousands, if not 100,000 people that go and attend the plaza lighting ceremony. It's sponsored by Evergy, which is our big utility, our electric company out here. They have bands, they do a big switch, they have a celebrity that does the switch that turns on all the lights. In addition to the plaza lights, there are several other ceremonies that go on throughout the city. Each city tends to have its own mayor's Christmas tree. Even after the night after Thanksgiving, that Friday after Thanksgiving, the city of Kansas City, Missouri will have its mayor's Christmas tree. Some start a little bit before Thanksgiving, some start December 1st, but Christmas lights in Kansas City are a big deal. And then there's neighborhoods and individual homes and all that. So these are some of the lights that we see in the upper left. You've got the plaza lights. This will be the 93rd year that the plaza has done the plaza lights. Candy Cane Lane is a neighborhood that is in Prairie Village. They started doing their Christmas lights. It's a cul-de-sac, 1958. I will say that that neighborhood does tend to ebb and flow. It's usually when they hit a big milestone, 50th year, 60th year, that the lights come back in full force. And then we also have a drive-through display. This is going to be its 36th year, called Christmas in the Park. It's sponsored by the Jackson County Parks and Rec Department. And then there are some TV stations that also do, radio stations that do some sponsorship as well. These are all big, well-known things. People take their families to drive out to these every year. And so that's really where we got started doing holiday light tours. I opened up my company in February of 2018. Later on that year, one of my customers had asked, "Hey, we want to go down to the plaza lighting ceremony. Can you give us a ride?" And that was really the start of my company and me doing holiday light tours. They knew some neighborhoods on the way back. We all kind of know those neighborhoods, but they had specific neighborhoods that they wanted to go see. From there, it was just scouring resources, driving around, looking for neighborhoods, trying to find where the lights were. And then there are some websites that out there that I was able to stumble upon that had a great list. Over time, advancements in technology allowed for synchronization of the music to lights. I think we all remember from it was about 2008, 2009, that we all saw the viral YouTube video of the house that had Trans-Siberian Orchestra's Wizards of Winter with all the lights pulsing to the music. And that has picked up, and it seems like there's a new house each year that has decided to implement that technology. Those houses use a low power FM transmitter. You tune into a certain radio station and you're able to hear the music that goes along with the lights. Over time, people move, people pass away, neighborhoods decide they're not going to do what they're going to do. So we've had to make some tweaks to the routes. Plus, just with how many lights there are, we really need to pick and choose which ones we're going to do. Matter of fact, the plaza, while it is that kind of a staple of Kansas City, I very rarely go down to the plaza as part of the holiday light tours that we do, just because of how far it is from a big core of lights that are more interactive and more pleasing to the kids. The plaza is somewhere where really you need to go down and appreciate it as a patron of the plaza. So what vehicles do you use for holiday light tours? All of them. Absolutely all of them. Every year I have sedans that go out. I have SUVs that go out. Obviously the limo buses, the sprinters, the stretch limousines, those vehicles are the ones that are the most popular. Sprinters, limo buses, mini coaches, those are great vehicles. They all sit up a little bit higher. So if you're going through a neighborhood where there's SUVs and cars that are parked along the curb, you see over those. But they also have some challenges in that some of the bigger vehicles, you have a hard time turning around. If you go, in the neighborhood, you got to worry about tail swing, hitting a parked car, things like that. So there are some challenges with those bigger vehicles. But the nice thing is that the window tint in those vehicles typically isn't very dark, so it's easy to see out, and the windows are nice and big, and it's easy to see out and see the lights that are going on. Limos are the most fun for families, especially with kids. They like that allure of a stretch limousine, but the windows, as we all know, are kind of long and narrow, and they fog up during the winter. And the window tint, with it being really dark, you have to turn off virtually all lights in the back of the limousine, otherwise you see your reflection. That's just how that works. Sedans are great for couples, especially if they're going out to dinner and you've got someone that's getting ready to make a proposal, pop the question, or we have people, it's just a date night for them. They think it's awesome. SUVs, same sort of deal, small groups. It might be two couples that are a little bit older to go out. Again, like the limo buses and the sprinters, the SUVs sit up a little bit higher versus the sedan. But getting in that third row can be a little bit difficult. Trolleys, I don't have any trolleys in my fleet, but I do know a company here locally that runs trolleys, and they do give off kind of a cool vibe, especially if you decorate the inside of the trolley with some garland or something like that. Just a little touch. You don't have to add a lot. And they, it just gives off kind of that classic vibe. Really, ultimately, any vehicle you have, you can market it, you can do holiday light tours. Don't think that just because you have sedans and SUVs, you can't do them. Couple things you need to think about are decorations and dress code. They're personal decisions. You need to figure out how you want to do what you want to do. You want to decorate your vehicle. If it's something like a trolley, people aren't going to mind a garland being hung from the rails on the inside throughout the season. They're going to understand that. A sedan and an SUV, something that you're going to use for a lot of airport transfers, you're probably not going to decorate that. Put a wreath on the front of your limo bus. People probably aren't going to mind that if you even use it for an airport trip. It's just a little bit of a touch. Things you need to consider. Can it be removed quickly? Is it going to damage the vehicle? If it's something that's going to need power, are you going to, like lights? How are you going to get that power? Dress code. There are companies all around that will sit there and they'll have the standard uniform, black suit, white shirt, black tie. It allows for easy dispatching. If you have, someone that is going to do a holiday light tour, drop off a vehicle, and then have to jump into a sedan or an SUV, different vehicle, go to an airport trip, that makes it very easy. But you can also have some flexibility that maybe they have a festive tie. I have 4 different ties that I wear throughout the holiday season. I do airport transfers in them. They're reindeers and penguins, hanging up Christmas lights, candy canes. People love them. They think it's cute. But really, the festive attire is where I excel and where I get a lot of praise and a lot of just positive vibes from the clients when I go and do a holiday light tour. As you see, if you saw my hat that I wear, this is something I wear. when you show up and you're wearing kind of the ugly Christmas sweater or something fun, the kids think it's hilarious. The adults, even if it's just a group of adults, they're like, you are in the spirit. You are the guy that does Christmas lights. So here are some of the outfits that I wear. I have sweaters with Buddy the Elf that say son of a nutcracker. I've got my goofy elf pants. I have reindeer antlers. I have lights. This is all stuff that I've picked up at Target or the dollar store. The Christmas bulb lights and the lanyards, the necklaces of Christmas bulbs. You can pick those up at Dollar Tree for a couple bucks. They're inexpensive. They're battery operated. They light up. Customers love them. I mean, even if you have a more strict dress code or, wearing the black suit, those necklaces of Christmas lights, that really can make, a huge impact on the vibe that you get. And it's easy to take off and go do an airport trip. So how do you set your pricing? There are some things that you need to consider. First, you need to decide how long is the tour going to be. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3, 4. For some people, if you just want to do in Chicago, you've got the Miracle Mile on Michigan Avenue there. 1 hour might be enough. 2 hours is what I've found. 2 hours in my city seems to work out really well, especially for families that have kids. 3, 4, when you get beyond 2 hours, you need to start figuring out whether or not you're going to have to stop and use the bathroom. That does not mean that there are not bathroom breaks on 2-hour tours, especially in private groups, especially if they've been drinking. If you go to a display where there's going to be a line to get in, if it's a drive-through display or they're going to get out of the vehicle and have to walk in, you need to figure out how long they're going to be at that display and factor that into how long your tour should be. It may take, an hour and a half to go through the line or an hour to go through the line one night. It might take 3 hours on the Saturday right before Christmas. Also, what day of the week is the tour? My tours are cheaper Monday through Thursday. I charge more Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Those are the 3 most popular days. Are you going to do a private tour or a ticketed tour? The private tour is really easy. That you know what your pricing is for a vehicle per hour. A ticketed tour, that's something you need to figure out what your margin is going to be. If you do a ticketed tour, I suggest using larger vehicles. Figure out what you want to charge for a private tour. Slash that by, or multiply that by about 55 or 60%. And that is going to be the base for what your per person ticket is going to be. That way, if you only fill up, 55 or 60% of the vehicle, you still send it. You're still profitable. Anything beyond that is added gravy in your pocket. I do not do ticketed tours. Chad Peterson, I believe is his name, with Renee's up in Minneapolis. He does ticketed tours and is very successful with them. Now you also need to factor what's included in the pricing. You've got the vehicle, but are you going to provide, additional things to the clients? Are you going to provide beverages such as hot cocoa or apple cider, eggnog? I'm not talking the alcoholic eggnog. I'm talking about the, store brand off the shelf eggnog. If somebody wants to add something to it, that's their thing. Snacks. Are you going to provide candy canes, cookies, reindeer chow is what we kind of refer to it around here, just kind of like the puppy chow type thing. Are you going to provide tickets for those that are ticketed stops? If it's the zoo or something like that, where it's going to be a per person price to get into the zoo for them to walk around, are you going to include that in your pricing? If you do, if it's 10 people, it's going to be different than if it's 6 people because it's a per person price. Are you going to go through a drive-through display? We have drive-through displays here, and depending on the size of the vehicle, determines how much that ticket is going to be. So we need to factor that into the pricing on what we're going to charge the client. If it's $40 for a limousine, we'll add $50 to the price of the tour so that we can cover that price, cover that ticket. There are several tours stops that we stop at where there are requests for donations. The city I live in, we have the Mayor's Christmas Tree. They have the Mayor's Christmas Tree Fund. Are you going to include a donation at those stops on behalf of the customers or not? Me personally, I prefer the customers just do it themselves when we are there. Gratuity, again, do you include gratuity? Do you not include gratuity? That is up to you. As far as how I do my pricing, again, I mentioned it depends on the day of the week and the proximity to Christmas. Those few days right before Christmas, I charge more than any other time of the year. Those are the highest demand days by far. I push 2-hour tours. The reason why I push 2-hour tours is that I have them start at 5:15 or at 8:45 with the groups. 5:15 and at 7:15, that's good for a late dinner. 8:45, that's good for an earlier dinner. That hour and a half between the drop off at 7:15 and the next pickup at 8:45 gives me time to go through and clean up the vehicle, disinfect the vehicle, reset the vehicle for the next tour. My Saturdays sell out long before any other day. Then Fridays, then Sundays, and then the days that the kids are off of school right before Christmas. Again, Saturdays and the few days prior to Christmas, those are the most expensive days throughout the year. Those are the highest demand days. After Christmas, those are actually some of the cheapest days of the year. And they're some of the best days to go and see the Christmas lights. There's no traffic. People have already seen the Christmas lights. Christmas is over with. They're after Christmas shopping. There is no traffic. It is amazing. As far as my base pricing goes, the 2-hour tour, I charge a little bit less, about $15 to $20 less than I would on a normal 2-hour tour or a 2-hour trip any other day of the year. Really, that comes back from high utilization. I'm getting 2-hour tours a night, whereas during the week, if I get a 2-hour trip, hey, I'm great. It's high utilization. I give a little bit of a discount. I'm not having to wash the exterior of the vehicle twice. There's just the higher utilization allows me to give a little bit of a break in the pricing. In the past, I've not offered any special beverages or snacks. That doesn't mean that I won't in the future. I don't. A 2-hour tour, I actually have a pretty strict no cleaning or no snack policy, only because crumbs slows down the process. I do not allow caramel corn at all in my vehicles because people drop it on the floor. The exhaust runs underneath the floor. It melts to the carpets. It is awful. Other things like that. There are things that you really have to watch what people bring into your vehicles. I really discourage snacks being in. They're more than welcome to bring in their own beverages. Everyone has their own holiday beverage that they like to do. I do provide bottled water. I don't provide ice because there's too many people touching the ice. I don't want to have to go through and burn it after each trip. That's additional time with cleaning up the vehicle. So I do bottled water. There's souvenir cups. You can use them year round. And then I use red and green napkins within those cups to have that holiday spirit. For my tours, gratuity is not included. All throughout the year, my pricing includes a suggested gratuity for the chauffeur. I make it very clear to the clients at the time of booking, gratuity is not included. The reason why is because during this season, people tend to be more giving. I do prime the pump a little bit, and I suggest what the gratuity should be. So if you have a $300 tour, 20% is $60. I don't say $60 when they're booking it on the phone. I say during this time of year, we typically see gratuities between $80 and $100. It's not uncommon for our chauffeurs to receive a gratuity of $100, $150, $200. Last year, I had a chauffeur last year get a $500 tip on a $289 tour. And I tell the customer, do what you feel is in your heart. Those tips allow the chauffeur to have an awesome Christmas with their family. I think I've only had one trip out of the 16 years that I've done this where there has been no tip that is given. Most tips are well in excess of 20%. Again, because of the way I prime the pump and how I set the bar, define what the gratuity should be. Most people go above that. It's just that season. As far as building and designing a tour route, you got to find the displays. There are certain places that you can go. You can do a Google search for, any city, Christmas lights, city, best Christmas holiday lights. You can do parent Facebook groups and search for Christmas lights, holiday displays. around here, the television, news, and the radio stations will typically be out at lighting ceremonies. Listen to those announcements. Also, if you're driving around at night, you have chauffeurs that are doing trips to and from the airport after dark. Make a note of the neighborhoods that have great holiday lights. Just make a note and then go check it out later. Obviously, you're not going to do that with a client in the car, or you can have some clients that know of some great holiday light displays. That's how I got started. They told me this is the neighborhood we want to go to. On Facebook, there's a group called the Best Christmas Lights and Displays. I actually did a search. Let me see if I can't show you. I did a search on Google. Can you see my Google page, Paula?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it says Chicago Christmas Lights 2023. It shows up with the Lights Festival. You have some other things here. A lot of Magnificent Mile, but they're Chicago Parent Magazine. Where to see holiday lights in Chicago? Top spots for Chicago for holiday lights. Best places to see holiday lights in Chicago. Do a search. Drive through Christmas lights Chicago. There is the Shine Light Show. I don't know if you guys have done that in years past. Tracy, you have a question?
Yeah, while you're talking about this, I just want to bring everyone's attention to the chat box. Randy Allen has also posted, very similar to what Tim is describing right now, that they have an official list of tacky light tour houses controlled by the local newspapers. So like Tim is describing right now, is that just by working with your municipalities and your cities, that this information is already available to you. It's just a matter of you putting the tour together and the service together, but the tour itself is pretty much already done by your municipality.
Yeah, for me, there's actually kansastravel.org. There is a website, a page dedicated to holiday lights in my county, and they go out every year and they check to see whether or not those lights are still good, and kind of give a little bit of a rating, a little bit of an insight on what's going on at those lights, whether or not what time they're going to be turned on, what time they're going to be turned off, and sort of thing. But this is one that came up, Shine Light Show. It's a drive-through Christmas light show that apparently is going to be somewhere in the Chicago area. So that's something to check out. Talk to them, see how much it costs for the size vehicle that you're going to go through, that you're going to drive through, if you can even take that vehicle through. We had a drive-through display a couple years ago that ground clearance was an issue for stretch limousines going through that display, because it was not necessarily on paved roads. You can go to, this is the Facebook page I said, the Best Christmas Lights and Displays. There's a little search icon over here. Type in Chicago, and it will come up back with some Chicago options. And then there's also, I lost it, but there's Chicago Parent Magazine. If you go there and you can do a search for in that group for Christmas lights, and it will, let me show you where if you do a little drop down here, it says search, and you can do a search for Christmas lights in here, and it will come back with things in the past. I know it's not, this is from 2022. A lot of stuff from the year before is good for this current year. So just because it's in the past, don't get discouraged. They're likely to do it again and again and again. So back to the presentation. Come on. Sorry.
That's okay.
Things to consider as far as the timing of the route. Where's the pickup and drop off point going to be? Is it going to be at a restaurant? Is it going to be downtown? Is it going to be at their house? Is it going to be at a shopping center? That's something you need to consider with how long your tour is going to be. If you're picking up at one end of Michigan Avenue and driving to the other end and back, you're not going to have time driving back and forth from the suburbs. How long is it going to take at a display? Some of my musical displays, we sit there 6-7 minutes. We go through 2.5 songs for them to kind of get an idea of what goes on with that display, with that neighborhood. We tune into the radio station, and they get a kick out of it. Traffic. That's something that really needs to be considered. Around my area, traffic isn't a major concern. Most throughout the year, we don't have the traffic like you do in Chicago. But on the weekends and the days leading up to Christmas, when kids are out of school, there can be some serious traffic issues. Later on in the night, kids go to bed, traffic tends to lighten up a little bit, so it makes it a little bit better, a little bit quicker to get through these tours. If you're going to have a longer tour, longer than 2 hours, you need to factor in a bathroom stop. Where is that bathroom stop going to be? Is it going to be able to accommodate the number of people you have? Don't go showing up to a McDonald's with a motor coach, with 50 people on it. They have like one stall for men, one stall for women. It's going to take a while for you to do that bathroom stop. Also, weather. Is it going to be snowy? Things are going to be a little bit slower if it's snowing. And you need to plan for on-the-go changes. If there's a delay or they have to take an extra bathroom stop, I've had to drop off a tour stop because, they took too long in the bathroom or they needed to make multiple bathroom stops. At the same time, traffic has been really light. I need to know an extra place to go to add on if I've got more time than I had thought. And then there's mapping software out there for you to determine the best route. I use Route XL. It's free up to a certain number of stops, so use that to determine the best route. It's really pretty easy to use. As far as where do you get customers? I spend virtually no money on advertising holiday lights. Over the years, SEO has been my biggest driver of results. You target phrases like Christmas light tours for your city, holiday light tours. Those are some key phrases that cause my page that focuses on Christmas lights, holiday lights to jump to the top of the list. Community Facebook groups. Make sure you follow their rules. They don't want you posting every day that, hey, we're doing this. You'll get banned from that group really well. But usually you can post once a month, once every couple of weeks, saying we're doing this. Around here, it seems like all the community groups are called Citizens for the Future of, and then whatever the city is, Olathe, Gardner, Lenexa, Johnson County. Parenting groups. That is a fantastic place to go and get it, to go and get clients. Parents, they have kids. Kids want to see Christmas lights. Now they can enjoy it without having to worry about traffic, without having to worry about where to go. Those are fantastic places to get clients. And then swap and shop groups. Post in there. You'd be surprised at what you can get from a swap and shop group. Again, follow the rules of the group. Where do I get customers? I send out a blast to my client list, especially those with families that I know with families. And then I've got clients that are repeat every year. I have clients that go twice a year. They go with their family, then they go with their coworkers. And that actually is where the corporate offices and the appointment-based retail comes in. I have a salon, a men's haircut place, a Sport Clips that hires us every year. One night after they close, they go out and do a holiday light tour. Real estate offices, that's a huge thing. That's their holiday party. And those are the ones that I see. The holiday and the dental practices, the real estate and the dental practices are the ones that I see multiple times a year. They'll go with their family or they'll go with their office earlier. And then when their extended family comes in, they'll go with their extended family. So I have people that go out twice a year, each year with their offices and their families. And then signage. I'm not afraid to put a vinyl sticker on the back of a couple of limousines that says holiday light tours, give us a call. I have actually stood out on a street corner with a giant sign that said holiday light tours, give us a call. My mom thought I was crazy for doing it, but I did it. And the number one place that I get customers is community reviews or customer reviews in the community Facebook groups. Lindsay Miller is somebody who hired us and has hired my company multiple years now to go out and do holiday light tours. Walter, may he rest in peace. These people are strong supporters of small businesses, and they go into the community groups and they post these things. And when I know that they post something like this, my Facebook blows up with people reaching out, asking how much, what dates do you have available, how big can you go, where do you go? I can't. The Facebook messages come in so fast after one of these reviews. I mean, look at this one from Lindsay. There were, 60 comments, 5 shares, and 180 people that liked the post. That's an incredible reach for free. I paid nothing for that. And it's funny because the house that's in the background there, that guy, because we go there night after night after night, I've actually turned that guy into a client myself. So you can pick up clients for airport transfers doing these holiday light tours just by stopping outside their home.
Absolutely.
Other things to consider when you're planning your routes, if you're going to pick up at someone's house versus a restaurant, or even if you're going to pick up at a restaurant, front load the longest driving time on the front. So if it's going to take 30 minutes to get to the farthest display and 5 minutes to get back from the closest display, drive 30 minutes on the front end. That way, it's like vacation. You can't wait to get to vacation, and after vacation is over, last thing you want to do is go through 2 different cities to connect on your way back home. That's the same. Once the tour is over, I want to get them back to their house as quick as possible. Set the presets in your vehicle to radio stations that play Christmas music 24/7. I'm sure that's probably starting here in like 2 weeks. We've got a radio station that will do it on October 1st. And also, if you go to some of those displays where the music and the lights are synced together, program those radio stations for those displays in, so you can quickly click on, oh, it's 97.1 or it's 99.9. Just have that in the preset, so you're not fumbling around with the seek button trying to get a low power FM transmitter, because your seek button's going to go past it.
Yeah.
And create a list for the chauffeur that says, okay, on channel 1, this is playing, radio Christmas music. Channel 2, this is for this display. Channel 3, it's for this display. If you're going to go through one of those those drive-through displays, or you're handing out tickets to people to go into like the zoo lights or something like that, where they need to have tickets, have those ready for quick access. You don't want to be thumbing around on your phone trying to find where those passes. And cancellation policies. Our holiday light tours are so popular. I charge 100% at the time of booking. The only way I will refund a client is if I'm able to get that tour rebooked. That's fair to them. That's fair to us. The more notice we have to rebook it, obviously, the more opportunity they have to get their money back. But again, that's a personal decision. You need to figure out what the cancellation policy is going to be for your company. You can also offer a game to play during the tour. And think about, maybe having a $5 or $10 Starbucks, Dunkin', Scooter's Coffee, gift card to hand out for the people that won the prize first. You can do holiday bingo. And that is actually something that one of my clients brought on a couple of years ago. They brought out bingo cards for everyone. I'm like, that's actually really cool. And they sit there, and I put a bingo card list down there. Make sure that, you're going to go through a fair number of these on the tour. If you do songs on the radio, you might not get Wizards of Winter if that's one of the, the choices on the bingo card. So you need to be careful about whether or not you want to include stuff that isn't a definite along your tour. And then if you know anything about the Christmas pickle, if you have a Christmas pickle along your route, the person who finds the Christmas pickle typically gets to choose the first gift to open that year. We actually had a drive-through display that incorporated the Christmas pickle. And so that was what we did is, when we would go through that display, the person or the kid that would notice the Christmas pickle first would get a $5 Starbucks gift card. One last thing, don't forget to ask for reviews. Your Google My Business listing, your Facebook listing, Yelp, although I'm not a fan of Yelp, it doesn't hurt to have good reviews on Yelp. But most importantly, like I posted a couple pages earlier, the community Facebook groups, if you get a mom to go into those groups or the parenting groups and leave a positive review, your Facebook will blow up with messages. How much do they cost? What dates do you have available? It is incredible. That is the best place for someone to leave a review. Real quick, I'm going to go over how COVID affected my business with the holiday light tours. December 2020 was actually the highest grossing revenue month that I had in 3 years. The reason why it was actually the highest grossing revenue month since December of 2017. The reason why is all the big venues were closed. There was no Trans-Siberian Orchestra concert. There was no Mannheim Steamroller. Even the schools were closed. You couldn't go down and see the third grade Christmas play. So people needed something to do. And Holiday Light Tours is where it was at. And we had all sorts of new locations that popped up that you could drive through. You're also in a vehicle with people that you know, and that made it feel comfortable. That made it feel safe. You are around people that you know who they are. Our chauffeurs, every chauffeur wore a mask in between trips. We have an electrostatic backpack sprayer, and we sprayed each vehicle in between tours. And so while it might have had like a cleaner or a chlorine smell or something like that, it was something that was safe, and it was incredible. None of our chauffeurs got sick, not even the common cold in 2020. It was incredible. I mean, just everyone within the company stayed healthy. We had no issues. We went from 3-hour tours to 2-hour tours. Going from 3-hour tours to 2-hour tours, we were able to service more clients. We had 2 tours a night versus just 1 tour. It also removed the necessity of a potty stop, of a bathroom break. And during COVID, we didn't know what was going on. Last thing people really wanted to do was have to go somewhere where they were unfamiliar with, go to a bathroom, a public restroom, and use the bathroom. So removing a potty stop was an awesome thing. It also allowed us to increase our nightly revenues. When you were charging $2.99 for a 2-hour tour versus $3.89 for a 1-hour or a 3-hour tour, well, that's about a 50% increase. You're getting $5.98 plus gratuities versus $3.89 or $3.99 or for a 3-hour tour. The revenue jumped significantly as a result. And with the 2-hour tours, I really had to hone in on where the lights were and make it, so that we weren't driving all over tarnation. We weren't spending 1 hour and 15 minutes of the 2 hours driving around looking for lights. And again, I mentioned we had multiple drive-through displays pop up. The Kansas City Zoo had a display pop up. The Renaissance Festival, because they didn't have the Renaissance Festival that year, they needed to do something for some revenue. They had a display pop up. Our football stadium, Arrowhead Stadium, had a display. And there are even more popping up this year. There's walk-through things at one of the baseball fields here in town. So, excuse me, COVID has really changed how people do Christmas lights here in Kansas City. So that is my presentation. Tracy, you have a question.
Tim, we all want to know, what is a Christmas pickle?
My understanding is this is I think it's a German tradition. It is literally a pickle that is hung from your Christmas tree. And so because it is the same color as the Christmas tree, it is very difficult to see. So my understanding is and I had to research, I had not heard of this until 2020. And I'm like, what is this Christmas pickle thing? And someone had to explain it to me. If it's a kid thing, primarily, if you have multiple kids, if the kid that finds the pickle in the Christmas tree, they are the one that gets to open up and choose the first Christmas gift. Okay.
Interesting.
It's not a tradition that was in my family. I don't know if it's a tradition that's going to be in my family for generations to come. I don't know, but that is my understanding, is that because it's the same color as the tree, it's very difficult to find. It's small, and the kid who finds the Christmas pickle first, or who finds the Christmas pickle, they get to choose and open up the first gift on Christmas.
I think we might try that.
So that, like I said, the out at the zoo, the Kansas City Zoo, they had one of the displays actually was a Christmas pickle, and the Christmas pickle moved. It was not in the same place every week. It moved around. So sometimes it would be towards the start of the tour or the drive-through display. Sometimes it would be towards the end. It would be up in a tree. It would be down on the ground. I mean, it was there though. And so it actually kind of made it fun for those of us that went through that display on a regular basis. We too also got to look for the Christmas pickle.
I love that. Tim, I thank you so much for sharing so much of what you put together. I mean, the information that you shared with us, I especially liked, that you told us about all the different vehicles, even the sedans and SUVs, how you came up with your rates, the explanation to the busy days, the Friday, Saturday compared to during the week, and how you set your rates for those busy days. The donations. I like that you brought that up because I do remember that there's a lot of, you're expected to give donations. So to think about that ahead of time, dressing up, I'm sure that helps with the chauffeur's gratuities, breaking up your hours. That was probably my biggest takeaway, is that you're purposely breaking up the hours in order to fit 2 tours per vehicle.
Yes.
And
yes.
thinking of that early and late dinner.
And with that, I do have to make mention, when you do a later tour like that, you do have to be very cognizant of when holiday lights get turned off.
Yes.
That Candy Cane Lane, unfortunately, has been hit with vandalism over the past few years. So during the week, they'll oftentimes turn off their lights at 10 p.m. On the weekends, on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it might be 11 p.m. So you need to be aware of that when you're designing your route, that you're going to be there when those lights are on. Now, that one photo of the limousine in front of the house, I have become good friends with that homeowner. He actually sets up all the lights in his neighborhood. We have shown up at a time where he has shut off the lights. But because of the relationship that I have with him, I have sent him, he's still up. I have sent him a text message, and he'll turn them back on for our group that shows up after he has turned them off.
That's cool.
That is
also
awesome.
that particular person, the people that do the animated displays where they set the lights to music, they all converse with each other. They're actually in a bit of a friendly competition with each other. They want to know who's going to have the better house. They all tend to use the same programming software. It's free. They'll share ideas with each other. And those people that own those homes are great resources for finding other people that have those homes where the lights are set to music, because they do communicate. They do talk and share ideas. I know that house that I showed you, that gentleman's name is Jim. There's another house that we go to is owned by Greg. Greg had a hard time with the elf out in front of his house, the mouth moving right. He couldn't figure out how to get the mouth to look right as it was talking and singing. And Jim actually went over to Greg's house to help Greg with the mouth on his elf to make sure it looked like it was actually singing right. So they talk, they collaborate, and those are great resources to find out where additional locations are as well. And because of Jim, I have 2 other homes that they're a little bit out of the way, but if I have that extra time, I can add in that 1 or 2 of those houses real quick because
those are all
because of Jim.
Yeah.
Those are all really good points, Tim. To support everything, all the information that you shared with us, I do want to call on Randy Allen. Is Randy Allen still on here? We see
Yes.
Randy?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Randy.
Okay, Randy, so I know that you do a significant amount of business with the Christmas lights. Do you want to explain a little bit about your stats and briefly about what you do? And I believe you shared on here your website that you had a page specifically for your Christmas light tour. If you'd just like to give a brief explanation of what you do.
Yeah, Tim did a great job of hitting Tacky Light Tours. Echo everything he made. All his points were spot on. Couple of things I'd just like to add. Safety is a huge issue in doing these tours. You have drivers that are driving at night, chauffeurs that are driving at night. with people in the back celebrating, asking them questions, trying to have conversations with them. They're in a lot of traffic, including pedestrians that are in front of these houses in the street, walking to the house. So safety is a huge issue. We have a safety meeting with all the chauffeurs prior to the season starting, where we emphasize how important it is to don't lose focus on what's happening in front of you on the road in front of you. And don't forget, you're in a moving vehicle. You've got to be very safe. I worry about it every year. And that's where having a navigation tool, like Tim mentioned, that tells the driver every turn to make. If typical tour could be 10 or 12 stops, you may be starting at a different location each tour, depending on where you pick up from. So the driver, if they don't have a tool that is doing the navigation for them and telling them turn by turn where to go, they're trying to focus on their driving and where do I go next and what turn do I make next, listening to the passengers. There's a lot of distractions. So safety is really something important to focus on. Fitting the chauffeurs to these types of tours. They're very social. It's a social atmosphere. Some of your drivers may excel in corporate environments, but they may hate a tacky light tour, and it'll come across in their attitude. So trying to match them up to the tours is important. It really is a potential to generate revenue for you year round, because the people that take the tacky light tour with you could become a corporate client. They could become a wedding client in the future. So it's more than just the revenue that it generates during the month of December. It exposes your company to a wide group of people that may not know anything about chauffeur transportation, or that may be influenced to use you in the future. We're very fortunate in Richmond. It's been going on for more than 30 years. It's well organized and officially maintained by a local media company. So they designate the houses every year that we include on the tour. And it's our job just to figure out the routes that we want to take. But I would conservatively estimate for our market in Richmond, we're about somewhere in the 60s in terms of largest markets in the country. So we're not huge, but conservatively, I would estimate that it's 1,000 tacky light tours a year and maybe close to $1 million for the entire market. So it's nothing to sneeze at, but great job by Tim.
Yes.
Wow, impressive by both of you.
Now, I'll be honest with you. So I'm a small company. I really only have 3 vehicles, primary vehicles, that go out and do the holiday light tours. All my vehicles will go out and do holiday light tours, but I've got a smaller 6-passenger stretch limousine, a larger 12 to 14 passenger stretch limousine, and then a 14-passenger limo bus. To give you an idea, last year, and there's a total of 4 of us that drive. With one of them, he's only able to drive Saturday and Sunday. And you got to remove football game days, because when we have a football game day, we are unable to do the holiday light tours because we're all out at the football game, working the football game. And I want to say last year, even with the small company that Boulevard Limousine is, we did on the neighborhood of about 85 or 90 holiday light tours for the 2022 season.
That's impressive.
Considering the fact there's only, you're talking 30 days between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and you can take away 4 of those for football, 3 or 4 of those for football games. It gets, off to a slow start, because some of the displays don't even turn on until December 1st. Again, another consideration you have to make when you're planning those early Christmas, those early routes, is that display going to be on?
Mm-hmm.
So
great points, and that's an impressive amount of business for that short period of time. So obviously we've got 2 operators on here that are very experienced with holiday light tours. Does anyone have any questions? If you're starting to think of setting up tours, or as long as we have their attention, does anyone have any questions for Tim, Randy, or anyone else that's been doing light tours?
I just want to thank Tim. It was pretty comprehensive. I feel prepared now for this year.
Good.
We can tell by your hat.
Yeah. I just, for those of you in Chicago, if you're thinking about doing zoo lights, it's important to nail down the ticketing. And also keep in mind for your vehicles, you do need to pay for parking after 30 minutes. I think it starts at $30. Make sure you factor in the parking. That's really important because that's a hop off type of tour where you'll bring them to the zoo and they walk around, and it takes about 45 minutes to an hour. So those are things you should consider because the parking will be pricey.
Great point.
There was one other thing I wanted to mention that I forgot. Alcohol can be a huge problem on these types of trips. Not so much with the families with young kids, but you have a lot of offices that might incorporate this into a holiday outing, or just friends that get together. And it can be a serious problem, both in controlling them when they're in the vehicle, but if they want to get out at some of the bigger houses and see it, they can cause problems.
So, sadly, the city of Prairie Village actually shut down a Christmas light display a number of years ago. And it was somebody, he was a lineman. The owner of that house was a lineman for Kansas City Power and Light. And he wired his house so that he could do Christmas lights. And it was an insane Christmas light display. His name was Mike Babick. And the city would go in and make his street one way during the holiday season. And it got shut down because the neighbors started complaining because of all the pedestrian traffic that was going on, walking through their front yards. It was killing their grass because of the number of pedestrians that were going up and down the streets and people parking in the yards. And you do have to be careful about, how many pedestrians there are, navigating those, like Randy said. As far as those that want to do the ticketing system, if you don't have a ticketing system already in place, there are resources out there like Eventbrite that you can do ticketing. If you're on Limo Anywhere, I believe the add-ons team has something that you can do ticketing for. And then also there is a in my area, I have a tourist train called Midland Railway, and they do the Snow Globe Express. So if you just do a Google search for Snow Globe Express, you can see their ticketing that they have on their site, and they have different levels of ticketing. So if you wanted to create, something or work with a restaurant or something like that, that they had a VIP experience where they got a maybe one of those light up necklaces with the light bulbs, or they got a custom made shirt or cap, or a coupon for a drink at a restaurant or a pop-up bar. Pop-up bars during this time during the holiday season is very popular in Kansas City. That's something to consider with working with restaurants and these pop-up bars. You may be able to do some cross promotions with those places, so don't rule that out.
Excellent. So thank you so much,
like
Tim.
I said, I know it's early. I know it's September. I already have a few on the books with a lot more people that have already requested holiday light tours. They know that, for my company, we do such an excellent job in my market that they need to book early if they're going to get the date and the vehicle and the time that they want.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I know that we're starting to have inquiries. We by no means do as many tours of what you and Randy had stated. But we do have a couple on the books, and the inquiries are starting to come in. I think Randy posted earlier that he's already has 34 on the books, and last year he did over 300. That's impressive, especially for when it comes to December and it's a slower time of year for the rest of your work. Before we finish, we'll just talk about a few other things. Before we finish, is take the time to go through the chat. There's different links that have been posted. Click on those links and then save them on your computer that you can browse through them a little bit later, just that you don't miss those links. So at this time, I just want to go back to doing business here in Chicago and see.
Hey, Tracy, can I just add one more quick thing, please?
Absolutely,
That's Jim.
James.
I noticed this last year when I did a Christmas light tour with the Sprinter van guys. Make sure to spray the inside parts of your glass with an anti-fog material, especially when it gets a little moisture up, because those windows will fog up in the back early and quick with a lot of people back there, and they won't be able to see the lights.
And that's something I put on one of the slides and I didn't mention it very well. There are some anti-fog things out there. People talk about using like Barbasol shaving cream as an anti-fog.
Oh, Lord.
I don't use that. There's a Rain-X product, an anti-fog product. I also provide microfiber towels to the clients to wipe off
We did that too.
the insides of the windows. And the reason why is because if you don't provide them with the microfiber towels, they will end up using the sleeve of their coats, and sometimes there's buttons or zippers or something like that, and it will scratch your window tint and rip your window tint. So I try to discourage using the sleeves of jackets by providing the necessary equipment to wipe down the inside of the mirrors if possible.
More great tips for successful holiday light tours. Thank you guys. Very appreciative of all your information, and thank you for sharing with everyone. So I had asked Paula if before we leave, if she could post the complaint link. So those of you that operate at O'Hare and Midway, we've been having issues with the staging area and the parking and how chauffeurs are parking. We do believe it has more to do with Uber Black. That's in our lot, but they're literally SUVs are taking up 2 spots, 3 spots. We've been sending those photos to Landside so that they can enforce it. They have sent us an email, I believe it was yesterday, that they will be driving through there enforcing. So make sure your chauffeurs are parking the way that they should be. The lot is striped, so it's easy to see where the parking spots are, but to stay within your parking spots so that we can fit more vehicles in the staging area, because it is becoming extremely congested. Is there anything else, anybody from Chicago that wants to add anything regarding O'Hare, the city? Are there any issues that you're seeing that we should follow up on? There I see Paula has posted the link. I cannot stress enough, and I know that I know many of you have heard me say it over and over and over. I cannot stress enough. Paula, do we have the actual link where you can click on it and literally it takes 1 minute to fill it out online versus calling?
It said click here, but it didn't take my link. Let me try it again. I'll
Okay,
keep
she's gonna
talking.
try
I'll try
to
to.
send that link.
It's also come to my attention that some of the Uber drivers are locking a cell phone in a box on the fence in the lot and leaving to do an Uber ride while leaving the phone on for Lyft to look for rides for them. And the cops have been removing those boxes and phones.
What are they physically on the outside of the vehicle? I wasn't aware of that.
They're on the outside of the vehicle in a box locked on the fence so they can leave the phone there while they go do something, as if they're still in the lot.
Work with me afterwards so I can share that with Tom.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not unique to Chicago. They've been doing that in other markets for a long time. They figured out that, you know, they can leave and do an Uber ride, but leave their Lyft phone there and hopefully get a Lyft, you know, be at the front of the Lyft queue by the time they get back.
Right, because of the geofencing.
Yeah. That's something though. We're trying to educate the airport people as much as possible because it really is not their job to know all this stuff. So every time something comes up, we share it with them so they are aware. And trust me,
And keep in mind, the reason that I'm stressing this link for the complaint, anytime that you see something happening, is yes, Paula, myself, you know, there's a few others that we contact the airport, we let them know what's happening. However, it has such an impact when we have 20, 30, 40, 50 chauffeurs that are filling out the complaint and saying, hey, the booth is not working. We are backed up. It's taken 30 minutes to get down to the terminals. But when they hear from 20, 30 chauffeurs that there's a problem, that has much more impact than Paula and Tracy calling and emailing and complaining once again.
Yeah.
So I just can't stress
ahead.
enough to share those links, share that phone number with your chauffeurs. Let your chauffeurs know is just be professional. You can call that number at any time. You can email the link. It literally takes 1 minute to fill out the complaint, and they just need to know the date, the time, a photo if you have a photo, and just very, you know, just detailed of what's going on. If you see a hustler that's parked in the terminal and he actually went inside, look, there's this license plate. It's at 1C as in Charlie. It's been parked here for over 20 minutes. That way they can pull up the camera, they can see it, they've got the license plate, they can follow up on it. And I just can't stress enough how important it is for our chauffeurs to have this information.
Plus, it's timely. When you call us, it's usually 24 hours later. If I showed you my phone right now, I have pictures from the last several days of O'Hare, mostly. I'm more than happy to, field the inquiries, but it's so important for the timing to get the complaint forms filled out. And if you see something that's urgent, use the emergency numbers, because if CPD is available, they will follow up. That is, and you can certainly let us know so we can track the trends and be on top of it. But it's myself, Beth Cox, and Tracy that pretty much talk to the airport on a regular basis. And also I'm starting to hear issues about Midway. So please let me know about Midway as well. And use those same forms. Yeah. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, do we have anything else? Any topics of interest that you'd like for the future? Any other discussion points that anyone would like to talk about?
I can share two we're working on if you want. These are not final yet. We're working on a meeting about AI because people are very interested in AI. So one of our vendor members is going to prepare to do a talk about AI, the good, the bad, and heaven knows what else. We are considering also putting together a workshop for those of you who are still new to business or merging businesses to build websites. That one we're fleshing out right now. That'll be an interactive kind of a workshop, and we'll do survey on that first to see who's interested. And those are the two right now that we're working on. And I think somebody else asked for some financial management type of workshop, and we'll probably come out with a survey to find out exactly what points people want. But those are the couple of items we're working on right now.
Looking
Tracy,
forward to the
may I ask a question?
Sure,
Absolutely.
Mr.
Okay, good morning.
Hi.
Just really quick, that new law that was passed about Uber and the new classification, when is that going to come into effect, and what is going to be the immediate benefit that we're going to see?
You talking
So
about? Oh, go ahead, Tracy, please.
So that will go into effect January 1st, 2024. And so what that does is that will mean that rideshare, and it's not just Uber and Lyft, but any rideshare company will be classified as a common carrier. So if a driver has an issue with the company that they're working for, or a passenger has an issue, whether they've been attacked, sexually assaulted, any issue whatsoever, is they now have the right to go after the company. Whereas all of these years that rideshare has been in business, you did not have the right to go after Uber if you were attacked in the back of the car, because they were not a common carrier. But now, as a common carrier, passengers and drivers have the right to hold the company liable for anything that happens within those vehicles while you're taking the service.
That's going to be so important for people who've had accidents too, because they've had no recourse other than to sue the driver. And so Guillermo, it's really leveling the playing field. It is the same requirement that all transportation companies follow in Illinois. And now,
I mean, the next step to that, as far as leveling the playing field, is, the insurance limits. Once that goes into effect, they are a common carrier. They're transporting passengers. They're operating at the airport. They're performing interstate travel, or interstate transportation, which federally that requires 1.5 million. And in talking to FMCSA and all of the meetings that we've had in the past year, and that would include every single vehicle owner for rideshare that would have to have 1.5 million. So I'm sure it'll take time. At this point, FMCSA nor any of the airports or the cities, they don't have the resources in order to enforce something like that. However, that is something that is being heavily discussed right now.
Thank you.
thank you. Good question, Guillermo.
Anybody else? All right. If not, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And like I said, any of the board members, we're open. If you have any questions, if you want to follow up with Tim, Randy, or anybody else that's on this call right now, feel free to send a text, send an email, reach out to us. And we will follow up, but again, I want to thank you. Have a great week, and we look forward to the next time.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you
Have
so
a good
much.
day, everyone. Thank you.